Hi there everyone, Lars here, with another anime review brought to you by Camille's Harem. Not just a podcast for novice writers by novice writers, but also a YouTube channel by novice writers for novice writers. Because writing is an adventure, it's more fun with friends, and I want to have a look at not necessarily the entire episode that we recently got from Nagatoro Season 2, but I want to look at something very specific that this episode did that I think is honestly really important to do when writing a romantic story. So just as a brief overview for those who might want to get caught on up and understand what the heck is going on here, the most recent episode of Please Don't Tease Me, Miss Nagatoro Season 2 encapsulated two various adventures between Senpai and Nagatoro. The first adventure was giving Nagatoro a gift on Christmas Eve. Christmas is very different in Japan than it is in the West, and as such, it ends up being actually more of a time for couples rather than the family gets together and celebrates Santa or whoever coming and bringing them presents. In my family, it is the Christkindl showing up, bringing gifts on the night of the 24th, if you happen to have survived the beating brought to you by Knecht Ruprecht earlier in the month. But in any case, on this glorious December 24th for Senpai and Nagatoro, it is time to exchange presents. And we've seen this done plenty of times before in many other romantic anime and manga stories. What will they gift each other for Christmas? Because that is how you're going to show that I have feelings for you. And it's cute that they both give each other something that is sentimental and useful. A scarf. It's nice, it's funny. It's also funny that we get to see all of the weird shenanigans happening within the school as they're trying to give each other presents. Friends trying to bring them along to play karaoke, other friends sneaking off to go make out in the infirmary, kids sneaking up to the roof to make out, teachers trying to crack down on it all, and the president of the art club running around butt naked. I mean, what else can we really expect from her at this point? But where the story gets really interesting, and where I think actually you get a very powerful romantic message, is in the second half of the episode when we now get to New Year's, where Nagatoro asks Senpai, hey, what are you going to be doing? Are you going to be going to the shrine? And Senpai's like, not really. I'm not particularly that superstitious or religious, but I guess if you're going to ask me, I'm going to go on out there anyway. And he goes and he finds out that Nagatoro is working part-time as a shrine maiden, which is pretty cool. And she gives him kind of a walkthrough throughout the shrine, walks him through the process, stuff that he should know how to do, but she's enjoying using this opportunity as an excuse to spend time with her senpai and tease him a little bit along the way. The time eventually arrives for them to get their fortunes, and Nagatoro's already selected a very favorable fortune. She's going to have a very good year. Senpai, on the other hand, he doesn't get a very good fortune. Now, if he wants to break that, of course, well, spend money at the shrine. Get yourself all kinds of knickknacks, amulets, spells, what have you, that are going to make your life better. Which Senpai does get an amulet, but it's really just as an excuse to speak one more time to Nagatoro and invite her to kind of close out the New Year's celebration with him, which is to go give their final prayer and final wish for the new year before ringing the bells. And what Senpai has to say is pretty meaningful, that it doesn't matter if there's faith or some greater, higher power, or if he's doomed to have bad luck when it comes to romance this upcoming year. If he wants any sort of romance to happen in his life, that will mean that he's got to start putting one foot in front of him. He's got to take that next step. He's gotten to a point where this is fine and fun, and he's having a good time with Nagatoro. They now have a very solid relationship, but if that relationship is to go anywhere else, it means that someone is going to have to take the next step, and ultimately that is going to have to be Senpai, because we already know that Nagatoro is super crushing on Senpai, but as far as he is concerned, this is all still just teasing, and his feelings for her are only really starting to be realized by him slowly but surely. So if anything's going to happen, it has to come down to Senpai. Now, this episode is really just a lot of cute fluff from beginning to end. It's pretty enjoyable, though I do agree with those who are big fans of the manga that the manga definitely delivered, I think, way more heart and did it way more beautifully in terms of artistic style and artistic flair than the anime did. It was a little bit disappointing in certain scenes, and not just because we had rays of unexplainable sunlights coming in, covering President. No, I feel like it was a little bit lazy here and there, but you know what, that's really quibbling. Again, it comes down to the quality of the story. And in both the manga and in the anime, what we get here is we get a very fantastic message that when it comes to romance, it doesn't matter what fate, curses, or gods have determined. What really matters are the people who are involved. What are their decisions? What are their feelings? What are they going to do to take the next step? And in any sort of good romance that you're writing, your characters need to be active. They can't just be bystanders in their own stories. And this happens way too often. It's a trap that you can easily fall into, where one character is pulling the load to make romance happen, or the plot just demands that romance happens, and then boom, romance happens. In both cases, it falls flat. If the plot demands it and it happens, you're just like, that's a contrivance that was not earned, it is stupid, there's nothing there to really enjoy. And if one character's pulling the load, it feels just so one-sided that if the couple does take off, if the ship does sail, it feels entirely unearned or unfair. And that's where a lot of shipping wars come into play, because people begin to wonder, well, who would actually have been a better match in this particular situation, because obviously there was not enough effort put into making this couple actually work. But more so than that, Please Don't Toy With Me, Miss Nagatoro actually addresses another big problem when it comes to writing romance stories. It is very easy to make romantic progression become stagnant. You eventually get to a point where the characters, they have that lovey-dovey relationship, you've got the fun teasing, or you've got the kissing and the flirting, or they're just comfortable with each other. You've reached a moment where you're like, this feels good. I am now just going to continue on with the rest of the plot. And when that happens, romance goes into neutral gear. It becomes stagnant, and the characters stop growing their relationship. It ceases to be sculpted into something grand that it could be. You see this happen actually with a lot of stories, specifically when we think about harem stories, where the MC makes it to a certain point with a particular girl or with a particular guy, and it's like, boom, romance is happening. Okay, shifting gears, we're moving on to the next person now. Now we're going to build up that relationship while the other one remains stagnant. Oh, that's so boring, that's so frustrating. But there's also plenty of other romantic stories where this happens time and time again, where the story reaches kind of a comfortable point for the characters where you know that they like each other. And it's just so much fun seeing their antics. And what then happens is that the creators become more obsessed with the fun antics and misadventures that just show how lovey-dovey and funny and great this is, rather than actually taking the next step. When we look at the story of Nagatoro, very honestly, it's kind of where it feels like it's been. For the past few episodes, it's clear that Senpai and Nagatoro now have a healthy friendship. It's clear that there's flirting going on. They've both got feelings. How long are we going to drag this out? This episode prevents that stagnation by Senpai realizing that he needs to take the next step and resolving in the new year to do that. And what's going to be great is that the next episode will be Senpai changing his look. Now, changing looks doesn't equate necessarily to a change of character. Everyone can change their looks, that doesn't change necessarily who they are, but for Senpai, this is a big step forward because he is going to get rid of something that has kind of been an emotional crutch to him thus far, and will now allow him to start taking more radical steps to show that he is serious about exploring his feelings and finally falling in love with Nagatoro. So this is where things get exciting. While this seems just like a fun fluff episode, the very end is important because it is a character realizing that if a relationship is to progress, they must be active. And when you are writing a romance story, your characters must be active in that romance. You can't allow it to stagnate. If there's no romantic progression, even after the characters get together, they must still be progressing in some kind of way, because if they don't. It stagnates, and the moment that a romance stagnates is the moment it becomes boring and useless to the rest of the story. It then just exists as cotton candy, and while cotton candy is fun and sweet, it is not filling, and if you eat too much of it, you get sick. So, there you have it. Some good, insightful, romantic advice, maybe for both the real world and for writing your own stories, coming out of the anime series and the manga Nagatoro. I freaking love this story, and we are getting to some really great parts here in the upcoming episodes. Some of my personal favorite moments from the manga are just around the corner. Oh, it's going to be exciting, so stay tuned for those reviews and analyses as they come. But if you're looking for more writing advice and not just on how to write good romantic stories, then please feel free to check out our other videos here on our YouTube channel. You can also head on over to our podcast, Camille's Harem, found on Podbean, Google Play, Spotify, the works. We have writing exercises for you to check out over at our Pinterest page, and of course we would love for you to join our ever-growing community of novice authors. Links for all of that and more are in the description below, and until the next video, y'all, good luck with your romances, and tschüss.